Part 1. The Forbidden Love. Episode 2. Olok took a long breath, as if the weight of the story was something he had carried for a long time. His hands trembled slightly as he set the spear down on the ground beside him, then looked me in the eye. There was a flicker of something, fear, maybe, behind his gaze, but he quickly masked it.
It is not just a curse.
He began, his voice grave.
It is the price of forbidden love. There are things in this world that we do not understand, things that our ancestors left warnings for, things that we should never touch. This is one of them.
I stood there, listening closely, trying to make sense of his words.
The story goes back many generations.
He continued.
Long before Amina was born, there was a warrior, a great warrior, named Ilgorogi. He was the strongest of all the Maasai, a man who could defeat any enemy, no matter how many. His name was feared by many, and his bravery in battle was legendary. But like all great warriors, he was bound by the traditions of the tribe. One of the strongest traditions was that the Maasai must never marry outside their people, and especially not from other tribes.
I nodded, understanding. The Maasai, like many tribes, had strict rules about preserving their culture and bloodline. Marrying outside of the tribe was seen as a betrayal of those traditions. But what did that have to do with Amina?
Ilgorogi, however, fell in love with a woman from another tribe.
Olok said, his voice darkening.
She was beautiful, yes, but she was no ordinary woman. She had powers that were said to come from spirits of the earth. Some say she was cursed, others say she was blessed by the gods. But none of it mattered to Ilgorogi. He loved her, and he defied the elders to be with her.
My stomach turned. I had heard of such stories before, and had heard of the stories before, like when I had depressed myself and gone for work. But this was different. There was a weight to this story that made me uneasy.
Married her in secret.
Olok went on.
But the elders knew. They always know. And when they found out, they were furious. The curse that had been placed on her, on their union, began to take effect. Crops failed. Animals died. People became sick. The land itself seemed to wither in anger at their defiance.
I could feel the air around me growing heavier, the weight of the story settling on my shoulders. It was like I could hear the faint crackle of fire in the distance, but the world around me seemed unnaturally still.
Ilgorogi did not stop loving her even as the land grew sick.
Olok said, his voice barely above a whisper.
But soon he began to change. His strength faltered, his mind became clouded. It is said that the woman's power, the curse, slowly began to consume him, and when he realized what was happening, it was too late.
The image of the warrior, once so powerful and confident, becoming weak and consumed by something dark, made my chest tighten.
The elders tried to banish her. They demanded she leave the village, but Ilgorogi refused. He fought against his own people to protect her, and that was when the real tragedy began.
Olok paused, his eyes lost in thought as he stared at the ground.
Ilgorogi died.
He continued after a long silence.
But the curse did not die with him. The woman, she disappeared, but her bloodline did not vanish. It carried on, generation after generation, each one marked by the curse. Amina is the last of them, the last of the cursed bloodline.
I stood there, trying to process what Olok had said. The story seemed impossible, too fantastical to be true, yet something about it felt real, like a warning, an ancient truth that had been buried under the weight of time. "But Amina," I began, my voice shaking with the weight of the story. "She's just a woman. She's not dangerous, is she?" Olok's eyes locked onto mine, and for a moment, I could see the fear that had been hidden in his gaze. "No," he said quietly.
She is not dangerous, not in the way you think, but her presence, her bloodline, it draws power from the spirits of the earth, and that power has a price, a terrible price."
I didn't know what to say. The silence between us stretched out, broken only by the distant sound of the wind rustling the grass. I was no longer sure what to believe. Was this just a story, a myth passed down over generations to frighten children? Or was there something real to it, something I couldn't see, something I didn't understand? Olok turned to face me, his expression hardening.
There is one rule in this village, one that must never be broken. Do not speak of the curse, do not ask questions about it. The elders have their ways, and we must respect them. Amina's bloodline must remain hidden, and the curse must not be stirred again.
I felt a chill run down my spine. The urgency in Olok's voice was clear. He was warning me, trying to keep me from digging deeper into something that could ruin us all. But I couldn't help myself. I had to know more. I had to understand what was happening.